34K, about 3,500 of you. We're growing about 100 new people this month. It's been awesome to see, but please do consider helping us continue to grow here as we now dive into my top 10. And we're about to rip through now, starting with Jayden Reed, a handful of receivers that now we hit these bye-week crunches here could really help you get through that and navigate these tricky waters. We'll start with Reed, though, 17% roster. I think about 3 to 4% is all you'll need to put in to get him. Maybe even nothing, given that he's off a lot of people's radars. He had a couple big booms early in the year, was a little bit quiet, but after this week, 88% route share. That actually led the team this week, more than Christian Watson, more than Romeo Doubs, and he ultimately racked up a team-high 12 fantasy points, ranking as a fringe wide receiver 3 in the process. 15% target share, 12.3 fantasy points, and they've got the Packers a very, very favorable passing game schedule coming up here. So Jayden Reed certainly seems to be, I know how bad Jordan Love's floundering at this point, but he seems to be the preferred target, those higher percentage throws out of the slot, while also still getting deep. 15.8 average depth of target this last week too, and barely missed yet another touchdown. I really, really like Jayden Reed moving forward. But if you don't need the immediate usability, you want a little bit more upside, Quentin Johnston, 19% rostered, putting his best day together as a professional, season high, 15.9% target share, 69% snap share, 68% route share. NFL puts up 5 catches for 50 yards, also season highs this last week. And anytime you get a first-round talent, especially at wide receiver, starting to see an uptick in that usage and production, starting to be on the field more, you got to take note, because historically we've seen it time and time again. Rookie receivers start to take off for the second half of the season. We know Josh Palmer continues to get banged up. It's only a matter of time, it seems. He's screaming in the medical tent was the tweet we got over here. He did return, but definitely was less effective, Josh Palmer, than usual. He was outproduced by Quentin Johnston this last week. Maybe we'll start to see him get used more and more as the season goes on. I certainly think so. I think there's room for this role to grow. It is a little off-putting that the Chargers using this guy deep down the field as a contested test guy. That's not his skill set. It seems like it should be as a 6'3" guy, fast game speed, 4.57, not the fastest 40, but he can blaze down the field. And with that size, you'd think he'd be a better contested test guy. He only had 3 red zone touchdowns and had one of the lower contested catch rates in football. That's why I was a little down on him as a prospect. But what he does very, very well, he was actually only behind Deebo Samuel in the last few classes of wide receivers in yards after the catch per route run. He is insanely elite after the catch. And we saw it. You know, that quick dig route where he just broke like 3 tackles, juked a few guys out after the catch. He moves much better than a guy his size typically does and should. So I really like Quentin Johnston. If they can start using him this way, he could be thriving with more design screens and some of those layup targets. That's his actual bread and butter. You hope that we don't keep seeing a round peg jammed in this square hole here, flipping those 2 around. That's just because I feel that they're jamming it this way. They flipped exactly what he should be doing, but at least worth a stash right now. It's one of the best pass games in the entire NFL. You don't need me to hype that one up any further. Now, Khalil Shakir, if you need an immediate plug-in wide receiver, I really, really like Shakir as a streamer this week and also potentially a long-term play should the Bills continue rolling out these 3 wide receiver sets. The first game with Dawson Knox, they were much more up-tempo. They almost exclusively used that 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers. And beyond Kincaid, who of course benefited, had a huge day without Knox, Shakir was the next clearest beneficiary of this. Season high in route, 72%. 6 targets was good for 15% share. Yards, 92. That was actually a team high. The role was already growing. You know, week 7, 43% of the routes, 4 targets the week before, but then he responds even bigger here in week 8, 15.2 PPR fantasy points. Again, the team high receiving share there. I think he's absolutely in flex play this week against Cincinnati, who's giving up the 3rd highest target share to slot receivers per fantasy points data. And then we also have Denver the week after that, who are also much more susceptible to receivers. Definitely give Shakir a look if they continue it. And why wouldn't they? Up tempo, best offense. This offense has looked in weeks. It's more resembling of the attacks we've seen in the past for Buffalo. I would absolutely be intrigued to add Khalil Shakir after this week's usage. But of all these kind of 4 to 5% bid guys, I would actually up my bid and prioritize, of all of them, Demario Douglas. Let's talk about this kid a little bit. He had a gaudy 28% target per route run over his college collegiate career at Liberty. And then, bam, this last week, 84% of routes, 77% snap share, 22% target share, team high 7 looks in week 8. Those are all season highs. He started even with Juju back these past couple of weeks. And now we got Kendrick Bourne out for the season. Unfortunately, back-to-back wide receiver 9-10 days, started the game with a touchdown. Bourne looked like he was going to be a monster for the rest of the season. Devastating injury, one of the only playmakers doing anything for this just completely abysmal Patriots attack. So Douglas stepped in afterwards, 24% targets per route run, and was the clear Patriots wide receiver 1. Didn't do a ton with it, only 25 yards on his 5 catches. But ultimately, and you got to imagine, touchdowns probably not going to be huge here, but he should be a true alpha wide receiver from here on out, at minimum 7 to 8 looks on a weekly given basis. And I think we can get at least low-end wide receiver 3 steady production from here on out from Demario Douglas. He was hyped all preseason as the guy in the New England attack. We've seen them churn out slot product after slot product. You can hate Bill Belichick for all you want with his receiving judgment. I would 100% agree with you as a Patriots fan, but the one thing they've done well is pick out these slot receivers. So Demario Douglas has that a pop for a reason. And I really, really like this kid. 7 to 10% FAAB. I could see him being a reliable, especially in PPR leagues, down the stretch run here for you. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.